It's on a delay. I fixed this and then it unfixed itself. Grr. Let's try this again. If people do not know, don't know how you don't know, but we, I guess it's possible, we had a series where, that just more or less wrapped up. Where I brought on guests who are professional historians, in some capacity, or professionals who work with the past in some way, to witness, Panda Cat, and then critique Amazon's questionable MMO, New World. I'm missing one episode here. I'm missing the most recent with Jeremy Salkeld last week. But, you know, over the course of, well, 11 different guests, and then my own bits of series, we covered a lot of ground. I mean, right, we started off with just colonialism, history, a little bit of discussion around and of colonial histories from early modern European perspective, and then the same from a Mesoamerican perspective. Branched over into talking with Javier Rayon, who's working on a game set in the Spanish conquest of Tenochtitlan, but focusing on a Tlaxcalan perspective within that game, which looks really cool. And then we had Blue from OSP come over. Then we had Tamika Glofsis, who's both a games critic and currently working on a PhD at the University of Adelaide. We had fellow streamers and dear friend Sophie Quests. Then we had Dr. Angus Mole from Leiden University. And then we had our very own Reed to talk history of religion. And then we talked medievalism and magic, archaeology, and then the Qing perspective, and branching all the way over to Ebonscale Reach and Qing colonialism, and how those two end up intersecting, or more accurately, failing to intersect within New World's portrayal of its one definitively non-materially Euro culture. Which is pretty wild. Right, that's a pretty huge amount of ground, and I'm overall super duper happy about it. But the first question I've actually got for you guys is, you know, did you enjoy it? For whether you made just one episode or all of them, I'm genuinely curious. Did you guys like that style of series? Yeah? Hello, Jacob Lackhart. Hello, good to see ya. I'm doing good. First time chat, so we're just doing a retrospective on a stream series that just wrapped up about Amazon's dubious MMO, New World. So, it's just chatting, hanging out, having a good time here while we talk. So good to see ya. Talking was often way more interesting than the video. Listen to it like podcast style. Yeah. Understandable. Did people like it? Looks like yes. Overall? Ha! Gazishin! We are starting an hour earlier than I normally do anyway, but I'm starting an hour earlier than that because daylight savings time just do be like that. It just do be like that. I got God this morning, so now I'm passing it on to all of y'all. It was very engaging, very fun. engaging, fun, podcast style. Talking was more interesting than video. And this dude with the 2 gifted subs, I super appreciate it. Ascudo, hello. And Sakratos, still need to catch up on most of these, but I'm so proud to have been part of it. I appreciate that. I appreciate that. It was super ambitious, right? As far as I know, no one has tried to stream like that. Right, there's been series with a rotating panel of guest experts, but with this is, for instance, like Sasa's, right, I guess point of comparison, Sasa playing Curse of the Pharaohs with guests, right? More casual, less interview-y, less focused on critique and discussion so much as reaction, etc. It's also, yeah, as AC points out, right, it's something that doesn't exist in New World space, right? This series didn't, was nowhere else in New World's discourse. Lots of people talked about the game design. The bugs, exploits, boring design, lame endgame, etc. Grindy level system, etc, 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 etc. Let's actually, you know, we're gonna make a bad call here. We're gonna make a bad plan. Let's see if I've actually got it here. Nope. Our New World. So, our New World game. I'm gonna just take a look at this. How long do you think it takes? How long do you think it takes for me to get to a post on Reddit? We'll check this one. We'll check the other subreddit as well. How long do you think it takes before there's a history one? How long? Combat change? Uh-huh. 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 Did I screw it up? They screwed it up, obviously, but, 50-ish. So you're saying on the 3rd page. You're suggesting it'll be on the 3rd page. Hello, Magistressa. We are seeing how long it takes for the New World subreddit to have a single post that realistically talks about any of the history in the game. Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Oh good, they added the blunderbuss as another gun. Oh boy. I do want weaponsmith pants. Fair. Understandable. Importance of alts. Adjustment to that, no. 2 tapped out of because of the musket's range. Hmm. Hmm. This one looks potentially promising. Nope. Nope. Doesn't do anything. Doesn't mention at all about the history of Rapier Musket. Just likes the stats. Hmm. Hmm. Why would anyone come back to New World? Well, we can probably maybe talk about that. But, Hmm. One job post? Which one? I don't see it. I don't see it. Yeah. It looked like it was like a company. It looked like it was company stuff. There? I don't. Great game. Oh, great base game. Oh yeah, no, that. Okay. World looks great. Liked gathering. Character models are bad. Yeah, no, no. Not even a smidge of it. Well. Which is, I think, indicative. I think I have, I think I've proven the point. I think I've proven the point here. Like, honestly, there's nothing here. There's freaking nothing interesting here. None of this... Nice bug. Pog bug right there. Uh-huh. Beautiful. Gorgeous. So, to Headness, this is actually important. Historians vs. New World is effectively finished. I can't promise, or I will not say that we will never go back to it, that we will never have more people on, that we will never do more interviews over the game. But I think, importantly, it has accomplished pretty much everything I wanted it to do. And I think, and also with the game itself dying, that it doesn't... The conclusions to draw from it at this point, I think, are different than they were when the series started. And to that end, the purpose of the interview series needs to change if we continue it. So it's going to be a much more sporadic thing. And I'm going to be looking at, you know, if we bring in people for other interviews, can we do it over a different game? Can we do it over a game that has more interesting things going on, rather than doing it over New World specifically? Anyway, so that one didn't work. Our New World official. If we check here, the official death of New World. Yeah, I mean that looks about right. It now is down average players right now. 38,000. Peak players 81,000, or is that less than 10% of its original player base? Actually, I think say like about 10%. Just gone on Steam charts. So, well, that definitely exists, by the way. Just so we know, that still is a not insubstantial number of people, but at the same time, didn't turn into the mega hit like people thought it might. Right? And that kind of matters. Let's see if the New World forums have anything. Forums. Let's see if the New World forums mention anything. So that's not even relevant. That's a history of... Okay, well... January 2nd, we got a French person. We got one French person talking about a historical company. Hooray. We got one. Yeah, actually, let's check this. In New World Official, history. In New World Official, search for history. Just imagine getting rolled that badly. Not like this. You clip it. Here, I got a clip for you. There's now a clip. In New World Game, search history. God. That was hysterical. Oh, that was... I couldn't believe that was that perfect. Oh, I cannot believe that was that perfect. So, last one on the New World Game, the much larger unofficial subreddit for it, is 4 months old for a mention of history that's actually talking about history instead of events within the context of the game. And we're gonna get to that, Milky. I don't think they did recently, because there wasn't anything to remove. But they certainly did at some point. Anyway, this is the other thing about, right, since we're talking about why we did Historians versus New World in the first place, this is super helpful, right? Don't think any armors in history wore clothing like this when they worked. Oh geez, and Wolfie with the 5 gifted subs. Thank you so much. We will try searching for more stuff, yes. Look at the second comment. In fact, I don't think any armors in history use ice gauntlets to fight hordes of pirate zombies either. Because this game is based in our history, question mark? I'm gonna scream. I don't think any corrupted portals in history open right underneath fast travel shrines either. Wait, you mean to tell me this is a game? What? You gotta be joking, right? Just perish. Nah. Magistrissa, let's... I've got the power of zoom. I mean, this, like, weird back skirt thing is bonkers and bad. But, you know, the doublet with a ruff actually looks okay. Niram, god damn it. You gotta do, you do me like this. Really? Is Firefox gonna be a jerk about it? Oh god. Oh no. Nuh-uh. Nuh-uh. Nope. Mm-mm. Nope. I'm not gonna full color it. There you go, Magistrissa. You can now actually look at that again. Right. I don't hate it. As I said, right, the skirt is dumb. Just all the way around. Either commit to the skirt or don't. But I don't actually hate this. Yeah. I'd say, I think it's probably consistently 17th century, but 17th century is a long ass time. Anyway, let's check in here. Oh, this is gonna be trash. Oh, this is gonna be very bad. Oh. Oh dear. Yep, we are doing a post-mortem of the streams. And so the first thing we're talking about right now is we're just talking about why we did the streams in the first place. And Milky, I have terrible news for you. Manslaughter, blah 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 blah. There were originally going to be human enemies, and luckily someone at Amazon eventually went, hey, maybe slaughtering indigenous native people isn't a great thing for a game. And this dude, with a gifted sub to Sakratos. Oh geez. Thank you all so much. Let's see. Let's see. Bloomberg, was that actually helpful? Let's take a, oh, don't be this way. Don't, later. Am I seriously? Bloomberg, don't do this to me. Yep. Plain text version, let's go. Look at all this garbage HTML. Come on, give me the plain text. Give me the plain text. Ah, it's irritating. Fine. If anyone can get around the paywall on this, please do let me. Please do drop a link to it in the Discord. Because I am not going to dig through the HTML plain text to deal with this. But that is the Bloomberg article that reports on the original delay. That this is, hint, this is bad. This is not, this is a bad sentence that causes me pain. But the idea that originally happened, oh good. Here it is. They helped. Oh, thank you. Look at that. Someone in the forums did good stuff. Oh, thank goodness. Let's see. Let's see. No. Crucible. When developers pointed out to Frazine's deputy, Patrick Gilmore, that the setting on villains... Let's see. There we go. Project was originally pitched as a survival game, in which people would play as colonists in a fictional version of 1600s America, fighting enemies that looked a lot like indigenous people. The original codename for the game was Roanoke, named after Sir Walter Raleigh's failed settlements in the 16th century. When developers at Amazon pointed out to Frazine's deputy, Patrick Gilmore, that the setting and villains could be considered racist, he expressed disbelief, according to two people who worked there. Gilmore did respond to a request for comment. Developers eventually removed the Native American imagery from New World. It is a problem. It is absolutely a problem. But, yeah, there's a yikes. This is a yikes. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Let's see. PvP, mounts. Yes, this again. Fishing, expertise, caravans, boats, NPCs. There was something in here that actually made me click on that. More enemy variety. Yep, there it was. There, found it. Yep. Each zone should have unique enemies, and mostly they do. However, there are a lot of reused guys, the rank and file lost characters, for example, who are somehow mixed in with the Asian-influenced Evan scale guys, the same pirates over and over ancients, etc. Reasonable. They're a perfectly good knight class, but only use them in one little camp. Maybe spread those guys around more and get rid of the excess withered pirates and keep those guys contained to another area. Place the lost guys in Evan scale with appropriate tire worker class guys that better jive with the Far East design. Well, that's already a poor sentence, but that's okay. Maybe throw in some actual human NPCs enemies as a pirate class that has yet to be corrupted, or a mysterious cult-like faction of NPCs who worship the corrupted. Also a yikes sentence. I'm guessing there are a few races coming as we got hints of things like Romans, etc., so throw some Vikings in there. Maybe a nod to Native American lore with indigenous people who are somewhere immune to the corruption. Throw in some boss Wendigos with them. Hey, look! Isn't that what caused the game to originally get delayed? Literally right there. I agree with most of it. Blah 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 blah. Blah 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 blah. So, have I proven my point yet? One. Amazon themselves had to delay the game due to it being originally super yikes. 2. Discourse around the game is still super yikes. No! Milky! Milky, please, go off. As a matter of fact, actually, if anyone has words that simply cannot be expressed in text, shoot me a message here in this first part, and we can hop into a call. Stefan, maybe don't quote Lance on TikTok. Did kind of get credibly accused of sexual assault. Maybe don't quote him. Yeah. Pain. We can't have nice things. Refer to Mr. Welch's main strategy for what this could have been. Instead of asking how to be sensitive, ask these people how to make things awesome. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, right, this is a retrospective on the stream series, so this is simply just... Right, so this is only partially a retrospective on the game. It's as much a series as, or a sense of why we did the thing in the first place. And I think it proves the point pretty well. Let's just drop that thing in for future reference. Let's see, where's the other one? This one. Let's see, were there any others? Most people are not. Examples. So much evidence of it being garbage. So, I think that, this is the final-ish New World stream, Grand Chicken Lord. So, we're just talking through the stream, giving a retrospective on what we did, why we did it, and how it went. uh, for probably another like 20-30 minutes here, and then we'll get into some Great Ace Attorney Chronicles. But yes, let's put it up here first. Historians versus New World will no longer be a regular series. We might come back to the game, but it'll be very irregular. So, yes. Let me put it in here. Exactly. Right. The reasons why it's going to be irregular, one. Game dead, lol. It's dropped some... It's lost over 90% of its players over the past 6 months, so game dead. And then number two, reason number two, I want to play other games. Reason three is that we've covered basically all the main story. Tackled it from a lot of perspectives, right? Mission accomplished? Mission accomplished? We'll talk about that in a bit. 3. There's no evidence that New World... Well, actually, reason number 3 is actually game was stupid popular. $950K players at launch. And number 4, the dev sure didn't talk to historians. So let's force ourselves into the conversation. To which point, Polygon, in 2019, when the game was first delayed, around that time, they had a, like, alpha, beta? I think it was a beta. But then they went, huh. New World is also a sanitized reenactment of the European colonization of the Americas and elsewhere, as a manifestation of the great white fantasy of virgin territory and new beginnings. The game treads unwarily into a heart of darkness-like country of racist imperialism. Colin Campbell, you legend. Good beginning. Are not explicitly Europeans? Fine. There are no indigenous people, and according to developer Amazon Game Studios, it's not really about invasion or America. Except there are human-like creatures on this Atlantic shoreline. They're shuffling zombies, variously called corrupted or withered. They don't have identifiable cultures, but they are extremely hostile to settlers. They aren't portrayed like, say, the Wampanoag peoples that the Pilgrims encountered, or the Algonquian-speaking civilizations of pre-invasion Virginia. But the game's lore says they are former settlers who have been corrupted by the island. But I'm struck by how closely these semi-humans cleave to the exterminative view that most 17th century colonists held of the people they found in newly discovered lands. European settlers generally believed that newly discovered lands were forfeit because the indigenous peoples did not display Eurasian-style ownership and development. The settlers came to believe that these lives were worth less than their own because the indigenous peoples did not engage in monotheism, or in North America the building of cities, or the printing of books, or the forging of steel weapons. This article definitely exaggerates it, but I think exaggerates it in a way that is useful. Right? Because this is language that is absolutely existing, and there are counter-narratives, but this is presenting a narrative that undoubtedly does exist. It's exactly as awful as it is. It's just this is the most awful stated as the universal, rather than the most awful stated as a fringe of a still extremely awful median. The indigenous people were susceptible to common old world pathogens. When first encountered by white explorers, they're often found to be in the grip of plague. Well, no, this one is a thing that has changed. Even the last 3 years of research has actually changed this one. And there were cities, just not on the East Coast. To the white man, here was evidence that these wretched men, women, and children had been abandoned by God, marked by providence for extinction. They were the Walking Dead, and this is a video game that seems to literalize that disturbing metaphor. Now here's the really important one. Here's the really important one. During an interview with studio head Patrick Gilmore, I put a version of this notion to him. He looked genuinely shocked. That's not really been a focus at all, he said. The lore of the game is that there's a tainted aspect of this world, that it's a Garden of Eden that has fallen from grace. You could argue this is precisely how 17th century Europeans viewed the New World. It is made and will be played by the heirs to 17th century Atlantic colonization. The game proceeded to get delayed for over 2 years from this argument. This is after, internally, members of the studio went to the same person, Patrick Gilmore, and was like, hey, maybe this whole killing indigenous people thing is a bad look. So, Polygon. Honestly, Polygon is the greatest video game publication in popular consciousness. And here's the thing, right? There's no way they didn't know. They actually worked with experts. Right? Like, we all agree. We all agree that there's no way they didn't realize this was Yikes if they were actually working closely with experts. Ground Chicken Lord, there has been more recent research. Basically, the narrative is moving away from plague spread rapidly on its own to the primary thing is actually genocide, and the plague is actually a secondary factor. So, you know, that's a thing. Right, I am not super familiar with the scholarship, but it is definitely the current trend in scholarship is to say that plague becomes a tool of genocide, but the 90% depopulation is not a result of natural spread of plague, but rather through often deliberate genocidal activity. We have evidence of quarantines. We have evidence that they were responding to it, and then were, like, bleh. Niram, I explored some of the aspects for this aesthetic chasing of history in my lecture on swords, and it's always the inheritance of power and the views from that power perspective. Zoe, right, the actual smallpox blanket is only attested once of actually happening, but it's a really pristine example of a broader sort of set of behaviors. But yes. Anyway. So much for why we did this. How did it go? 12 past probes. Myself? Sacerdos? Pixel? Javier Rayon? OSP Blue? Please, Milky, absolutely, go off on it. We have full license to go off on this game, because I sure did. I can't exactly tell you not to. Tomica, Sophie quests. Dr. Angus Small. Reed. Tess Watterson. Loftus. Tess. I believe Bill was next. Yeah. Dr. Bill Farley. And Jeremy Salkeld. Right. 12 pass pros. So we covered a lot of ground, right? Topics included. Oh, yeah. I mean, Wolfie. Lots of people talk about the bugs, exploit grindy level system, etc., etc., etc. Right? That's not that. The game is a mess. New World is a mess. Roasting 3090s, etc., 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 etc. But this is a retrospective of the stream, and the stream doesn't really care that it yeeted people's 3090s. Though it is very funny, and very bad. The stream, the whole point is that the historical discourse is literally absent from New World's broader conception, despite being explicitly historical. Oh yeah, right. Thing one. The game is explicitly historical fiction. Game about. Oh wait, have they removed? Oh, they've totally removed most of these. They removed some of the discussion that it is historical. They actually, there was more in this section about it being 17th century. Wild. Alright. Alright. Hello, Sophie. Good to see you. That's hysterical. Oh, Sophie, you missed. They knew I was onto them. You missed the funniest thing. I searched in the official New World. Watch this. Watch this, Sophie. As soon as it loads, come on, do the thing. Discourse. I'm truly unprepared. Yes. Milky, hop in the main voice channel, or yeah. Hop in here, and have a couple minutes here to talk about this. Hello.
Hi.
How you doing? Let me turn down the music. All right. So, let's only take a couple minutes here because I do want to get to Grey Ace Attorney and voice acting soon. But yeah, let's talk about the avoiding of native people and how fucking dumb it is.
Yeah. I think they kind of, like, while trying to avoid it, because, like Polygon mentioned, I guess, they have, like, they seem to have removed it, like, later on in the process, but like I think they pretty much kind of failed it with the like comparison to stuff like the smallpox, for example.
Mm-hmm.
It really feels like they the infected. I don't know if they're called that. I can't remember.
Yep.
It really feels like they're just like a direct reference to native people instead of like,
Oh,
oh, we removed the native influence or whatever. Uh, it really feels like that they just kind of messed it up there.
mm-hmm.
And the, I think it kind of feeds into the whole like concept of the like because the illnesses were so rampant when what happened.
Yeah.
It really feeds into the idea that like native people didn't have a sense of hygiene or they couldn't care for themselves because that's like very rampant. Uh, like people think like, oh, why didn't they quarantine? They did.
Yep.
Uh, they were just like, if you're stuck in between a conflict, an invasion, a like fighting off the colonists and whatever, and you're also fighting off illnesses, then eventually you're gonna just like it's gonna run its course,
Yep.
basically.
And I mean, we are seeing that, unfortunately, right? The same truth in Ukraine right now. I mean, people are not worried about quarantine because they have bigger things going on.
Exactly, and that's kind of what happened with the illnesses. Though I want to mention, like people in the chat brought up like the smallpox blankets. There is actually like not too much evidence that those worked. Like they were attempted for sure, but like uh, even like smallpox and similar like things, like for example, same with COVID, they
Yep.
don't stay on clothes for very long.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was like 2 hours for COVID. I don't remember for smallpox. So it was not very effective, but it was for certain tried.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for that, because, yeah, I totally agree. And I was making notes here while you were talking, right? In lore, the Withered, the most zombie like of the zombies, are explicitly products of disease. Uh, right? It's like the ground becomes diseased and turns them into withered. And their ways of trying to deal with it, even though they were colonists, the ways they're trying to deal with that are often transparently snake oil remedies. So it definitely buys into the same idea, I think, where it's disease causes this sort of social death, and the response is simply not being smart enough to have good medicine.
Yeah, exactly. Like it really feels like they just kind of how do I say this? Like jerry rigged the whole removing the native influence thing, and maybe like I feel like if they kept it, it could have been worse. But I feel like much of this could have been avoided if they just never mentioned that they were trying to be historical.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I still think the game is very bad and very transparently colonialist, but definitely not to the same extent.
Yeah, I mean, let's be honest. Like, if people wouldn't be that worried about the colonialist aspect of it, if it was like explicitly fictional,
Mm-hmm. I mean,
I
people
think
aren't worried.
only some of us would be.
I mean, people aren't worried about it broadly anyway, but I think, yeah, fewer historians would be bothered about it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep. Awesome. Thank you for that little addendum.
Yeah, no problem.
Cool. So, let's cycle back to the stream here, because I mean, that's a super important thing here, that I am making explicit note of. Repeat colonizer tropes about indigeneity. Hey, look at that. So, the point here is, of course, with all these different topics that I'm mentioning here, let's make them a wee bit bigger so people can see. The response, I think, is all of these topics are intertwined, right? Unfortunately, it's not possible to talk about colonialism and the portrayal of colonialism without talking, I think, about all of this. Not some of it, but all of it, right? Colonialism is environmental, it is human, it is social, and biological, in the terms of like disease and hunting and all that stuff. It's often religiously motivated. And so, literally, all of this ends up being tying into the same idea and have a different piece of the puzzle as to what makes the game so problematic. Special shoutouts, I would want to call it here. The archaeological methods here, when Dr. Bill Farley came on, and we found out that in game, the ancient human made ruins made out of basalt are 12 million years old? Hysterical.
That feels like a reference somehow because like of the 12,000 we have for like Native Americans that's floating around. I might be like a bit off with that.
Yeah, but it's right. And the extra order of magnitude, uh, I think, is just realistically just saying bonkers numbers. Right, it's outside the realm of geological possibility, which is the great thing. Not man-made lizard, by the way, ancient-made, totally distinctive, totally different. We promise. And remember, they did that not by doing radiocarbon dating, which is not a process that existed in the 17th century, but by doing analysis of the weathering of the basalt, the sediment layers, which doesn't work on carved shaped rock, and using potassium argon dating to do chemical analyses of the basalt, a process that postdates radiocarbon dating. And I mean, that's a moment that's super revealing. That's a moment that stands out to me. Both because it's very funny, but because it's super revealing as to how they approach historical method, right? So, it's what I'm gonna call technobabble aesthetics. In that, it is right. Their writing confirms the thing that the visual language suggests. That what is important is that it sounds vaguely, sort of, kind of, ish, within the realm of possibility. And past that, there is no regard for coherency, plausibility, or a nuance. So yeah, they looked at, just like in this, they, as you said, right, they heard about these dating methods, but they haven't actually a clue what they mean. The same thing is true within the historical imageries. They clearly gathered a lot of visual references for the buildings and farms and constructions and clothing, etc., that you can use in the game. But they don't actually have a clue as to the context that helped produce these, or what happens when those contexts change. That's a big deal. So, this is also the Ren Fair approach. Right. Superficial, medievalist, hyper-reality. Early modernist? Awesome. love the way it's made because it's easy to understand. Good, I'm glad to hear that. Approach to the colonial ideology, indigenous people is the one to make the game that's fun, rather than historically accurate in any way. Yes. This is a great point. Let me just copy and paste this Zoe wholesale, because this is a phenomenal point. And I can turn the music back up here. This approach basically colonial ideology, right? Indigenous peoples, because they want. I turned it up too far. Apologies. Let's try that again. There we go. Chill tunes, happy tunes. They want to make a game that's fun rather than historically accurate in any way. Which, ignore my typing skills. Then means that at some level, indigenous peoples are being viewed as playthings. Cool. Love this. Adore that point. Adore that point. And, this also echoes a point that Angus made, right? Echoes Angus's point. Colonialism is fun to play. Right? And because it's a game, right, fun and profit are important motivators, and colonialist mechanics are very fun to play. But that's why it's so important that we're digging into this, right? That covering all of these topics shows the ways that those mechanics actually do exist, right? They do matter within a world space. It's not just they're around, and none of this matters. They are all intertwined, and they all help us more deeply understand why they thought it was fun. And so the last point here then is, of course, what do we learn? Actually, before we get to that, I want to know, are there any points here that are during any of the streams that stand out to you guys, chat? Were there any moments that stood out as being particularly good, or particularly thought-provoking in the ideas? I mean, everyone, I think, had phenomenal discussion. I am so happy with this group of people that we got on, because I couldn't ask for a more thoughtful series of guests if I tried. Everyone bought in so well, and had such great discussions, so I loved it. But and clearly there's a lot more to talk about around the game and the lessons we are learning. But yeah, are there moments that stand out? In the meantime, I'm going to start pulling some quotes here from chat in the lessons to take away here. Do we need the music a smidge lower? We can absolutely do that. There you go. Memorable moments. Qingshu definitely is up there for me. As is 12 million years. As is glitching through a rock. This could be a poem. I mean... Lord, this was, I think, Zoe again. Oh, who was this? That was Magistressa. Awesome. Never trust a corporation to make a thoughtful game about colonialism? Yeah. Yes, Escudo, Eternum is also Avalon. Do it, Wolfie. Go bring the spice. Issues about, awesome. Really valuable convo. For Zoe. Hooray. I think the other lesson that I have, though, for me, is New World, especially as the player base has dwindled, has revealed itself to be a symptom rather than a disease. Right. To use potentially problematic terms, within our broad cultural consciousness, New World is a symptom. And it's a revealing symptom, right? I think all the things that it does horribly is super useful to pay attention to, but not because there's risk that the game itself is particularly reinforcing or justifying them, but because this is a really useful symptom. That this is the New World is the amalgamation of exactly what you think it is. Yes. Yes, this dude. Love that take. Excellent take. Big fan. Big fan. Right? It is exactly, precisely the game one thinks it would be from the description. A fantasy MMO made by Amazon set in an alt history 17th century. Right, I mean that's a fair description, right? A fantasy MMO made by Amazon Game Studios set in an alternate history 17th century. We are doing a wrap-up of the stream series for Historians vs. New World. And then after that, we're going to roll into some Great Ace Attorney. We're close to the end, because I don't want to take this too much longer. Otherwise, the post-mortem of the stream is going to be as long as the whole series was, which is probably not great. Which is not great. Can we conceive of an MMO that doesn't inherently include colonialism? Let me just make a note of this one. We can talk about this again. And this dude with yet another gifty sub to Born Again Geek. Enjoy your emotes, Born Again Geek. Okay. All the expert perspectives in the world, do not change this. Let's see, I like that in some ways the way the game approaches the setting of colonial America is the same way that Disney did with Pocahontas, glossing over the violence, emphasizing that it's a vast untamed land ripe for conquest, not really engaging with how that conquest will lead to suffering, especially on the side of indigenous peoples. Yep. I mean, but ultimately, Magistressa, right, this is the point, right? To which I would add, doesn't. Right? Right? Pretty much every MMO is going to be either or certainly of the last 25 years, is either colonialist or capitalist or both. Right? Club Penguin is probably the closest we get. Which ain't good. Ain't thrilled. Final Fantasy XIV diff. True. Final Fantasy XIV is weird because, Grand Chicken Lord, like, I'm not even saying we should never make games where you play as colonizers, Nazis, or something else awful. If we can interrogate their actions and ideology, I'm framing in a way that it doesn't justify them, but instead illuminates the ways in which it was awful. Not easy, but I'm not convinced it's impossible. Agreed. But yeah, right, Final Fantasy XIV is definitely capitalist, but yeah, I think you're right. It is anti-colonialist, and it is consistently, right, I mean, Realm Reborn is a little bit less, on that anti-colonialism hype, but then they become incredibly based, and it's fine. But oh man, Realm Reborn does not start off strong on that front, does it? True. It does have Y'shtola going, wait, hang on, this is just racism. So, as we know, Y'shtola is based. And then the entirety of Final Fantasy XIV just continues to get more based. Which is pretty good. You love it. Exactly. They immediately realized their mistake and then went, bye. Oh, Grand Chicken Lord. It absolutely has several things to do with colonizers, in that most of the playable races are technically colonizers, sort of, kind of. But then they themselves are subject to an invasion. And then I haven't really dug into any of the expansions. I don't really know what goes on in them. Because if I start another MMO, I will be very unhappy. I have Elden Ring to play, goddammit. But yeah, I mean, right. Ultimately, this is the question, right? It is possibly the biggest question that comes out of Historians versus New World. Yeah, math, yeah. Exactly, Rat. Well, I'll say Club Penguin is the closest we get, but it's like Club Penguin and FF14 are the closest we get. But right. This is the most important question that's left here. It's just, is there something we can do? And the answer is honestly, I don't know. Right? What space exists in a genre influenced so heavily by World of Warcraft? What space is there to do? I'm like, I think there is space. I think MMOs are so cool. MMOs are so cool because the core fiction of it is this little pod where you could do something different. You could do something totally different. Where you could buy the game, and then interact with people in this society that is just different, right? It doesn't have to do the things that historical or modern Anglo-American society does. But what does that actually look like, and how do you get players to buy into that? Unfortunately, right, this is a two-part problem. How do you design a game that doesn't have that space available? And two, how do you get players to buy who are born and raised in assumptions of the universalization of capitalism? How do you get them to buy into that? Right, because you can't have a marketplace in the traditional way. And you can't interact with the world in the same way. And so core ideas of how you want players to navigate the world, and how you want players to interact with each other, are just fundamentally different from what Anglo-American society that will make up the majority of your player base will do. That doesn't mean there's no potential, though. I think there's lots of potential for it. It's just, it is hard, and an MMO is the most expensive type of game you can make. Period. And to that end, it's going to be really challenging to go in and just, let's experiment. Let's do something wild and hope it works. There's not really a viable subgenre. And it's so expensive that the emergent type of indigenous people make games about themselves and their stories will not work for an MMO. That strategy is never going to make an MMO because it costs too much money. And yet, historically, that seems like it's the big potential, right? Is that you might be able to do that. You might be able to do that. So let's quick zoom out here so I can fix the text color, fix the highlighting. Perfect. Let's try that again. I don't know, Magistressa. I genuinely don't know. There's not right now. There's nothing in the market right now. And yet, right, it is, the fact that it is exactly the game one expects it to be. The New World, rather, is exactly the game one expects it to be. And the fact that we brought all the experts in the world to it indicates a couple of other things. Most importantly for this channel, though, the thing that it indicates is there a... Thank you. Ugh, delete all this. There we go. Is there a market for secondary creation and criticism? Right, this has been, Historians vs. New World, in my estimation, has been the most successful, or the largest, and most successful experiment in live interview and critique among historians on Twitch. Here's a fun question. Have y'all heard of anything like Historians vs. New World? Right? I certainly hadn't, right? I was like, this is the kind of thing I wish I had, because there's been lots of experts react to, but nothing on this scale, right? Can you all think of an example? YouTube, Twitch, whatever. Because I've tried and I failed. It doesn't have to be about, like, New World, because, right, I mean, I think of, like, Insiders, I don't know, right, I modeled Historians vs. New World, expert reacts to warfare in films, cool. I mean, right, I model Historians vs. New World off of Roll Canina Dice stuff with Insider. Like, straight up, we'll be doing more stuff that's explicitly modeled on this. But, right, this is where my inspiration came from. In terms of content more than form, right? Form is its own thing, but content-wise, that was my inspiration. That isn't a cursed answer, Lizard. Deadliest Warrior actually technically had a similar format. But yeah, I got nothing. Deadliest Warrior, lol. And then Archaeosoup relies on his own expertise, right? Everything else concentrates expertise into a single person. I think that's the big difference. I think that right there is the big difference. And certainly, right, that's kind of an we talked about this, it's kind of an inevitability of the creator space. Hey Vesper, good to see you. Played Mountain, I played a little bit of Mountain Blade Warband. I have not played the Viking Conquest expansion. It is, however, on the list of games to play at some point, so... do stay tuned for me to get around to that eventually. If only they would stop releasing new games, right? I mean, I've got to play Elden Ring first, and Lord knows how long that's gonna take. But, you know, we'll eventually cycle back to the classics. Because Mountain Blade Warband is definitely one of the classics. If only Valhalla would stop releasing new content, am I right? Ugh. Alright, Position, we're about to wrap up today with this anyway, because we've been going for over an hour. I want to play some Great Ace Attorney. So we are coming close to the end of this, so good night, get rest. Modeling social capital as the most important resource to gather in the game sounds fascinating. Yes. Yes. Big fan. Give social capital a game now. Pierre Bordeaux would be thrilled. Big fan. Big fan. Chat, we should check out Yes, Your Grace. Remind me at some point when we need a filler week to check out Yes, Your Grace. It might have potential on that front. Yes, Zoe. Okay, so. Let's see. Let's finish up here. Let's actually finish up here. Then we can kind of keep conversation rolling while I voice act. Okay. Really, really important. Loved the interviews. Right, I mean, I love the chance to let people talk around the game. Right, I think that's the biggest success. Here's the question. Are there things that went badly? There are things I am unhappy with Historians vs. New World. We can talk about those a bit too. But do you all, firstly, I want to get your guys' thoughts. Do y'all think there are things that were bad about this series? The things you don't like, things that you think went poorly? And by the way, if you're watching the VOD over on YouTube, also leave a comment if you've got thoughts on any of these. Like, these conversations should continue. With the stream series. Obviously, the game itself, right, the stream series was nothing but problems with the game. But with the stream series, Historians vs. New World, were there things that you didn't like about it? As I don't think it was a perfectly reified thing, right? I don't think I don't think I ran it perfectly. I mean, that's valid, Grand Chicken Lord. Game choice is unappealing. I mean, that is absolutely a valid choice, right? It was done deliberately, but you know, interviewing people around a game that actually does something worth talking about might be worth. Clear agenda of what we hope to discuss. Makes sense, right? I mean, I definitely tried to have a list of questions, Zoe. But I often ran out of those. Right, I often ran out of those, so that's fair. And kind of just trusted in the ability of historians to talk about the thing they care about indefinitely. It's like, we're really good. Technical issues. Yep. Technical issues, lack of preparation to get to ideal areas for topics. Makes sense. Right. I mean, I was really sad we couldn't punch Aldous Thorpe in the face. Exactly. Right. Definitely. I'll second that, Magistrate. So sometimes conversation sometimes got far off the game, and I had to stand around waiting. waiting for it to end to ask about a thing I saw. Biggest problem is time zones. Yeah, Wolfie, I'm sorry. Unfortunately, the realities of working. Big oof. Time zone's big oof. But yeah, I think this ends up being the biggest takeaway here, right? These two. Rest in peace, Crocodgators, or just that directing conversation is difficult. Yeah, it sure is. Turns out that's really hard. Anyway, right. This is good. This is good for me. This tells me, what games do I find, or what do I think can be improved? Well, a little bit more preparation and discussion with the people coming on beforehand seems like it's useful, and then bring people on for more interesting games. Makes sense. Makes a lot of sense to me. Well, so yes, to say it one more time, this postmortem marks the official proper end of Historians versus New World. We covered a lot of ground in here, and it's got a nice document for what we actually have going on. Like, what we covered over, well, technically 15 streams, but 12 different historians, including myself. This will not, however, necessarily be the last time we stream New World. They have promised that eventually they are adding more historical content, and if those turn out to be interesting, or we got other people who really want to talk about New World expressing interest, we may occasionally come back to it for an interview or two. But moving forward, I'm going to try and have those interviews be around different games, more interesting games, and games that better reflect the expertise of the people who are interested in coming on. So, you'll see if you're watching this on YouTube, this will be kind of always the last one in the playlist, and then I'll put a little, primer video up topside as the first video in the playlist for New World at some point. Otherwise, so thank you all for this, and thank you all for the interest in the postmortem. Right, actually, I'm staggered. The viewership numbers in the postmortem have actually been higher than at any point during the base series, except for when Blue was on, which is wild. Just shoutouts to y'all for, being like, wow, if, even without the 1.5 million subscriber YouTube personality coming on, we're still averaging higher than the series itself got, so that's super pog. And with that, good, you are here for this analysis. With that, we will say goodbye to Historians versus New World. Chat, marginalia moment, go. Go. Bring it on. Celebrate the end. Party emotes. Give it to me. Fill the screen. Drown out New World. Drown out the insanity and the symptoms that it represents. Let us wash away the remains of this MMO and move on to greater and more interesting games, like Elden Ring. Thank you all.